Hello everyone and welcome to a really wild game from the 2012 World Blitz Championship between Magnus Carlsen and Teimour Radjabov. Now, if you're wondering why I'm showing a game from 2012 between these two gentlemen, well, I was just, doing my own thing, checking out Twitter, preparing to do a video on the Morphe saga, and I saw this article by Chess24 where they mentioned something very interesting. Now, they mentioned that Magnus Carlsen has made an appearance on the Norwegian comedian Morten Ram's podcast, article to which will be in the description below to the Chess24 article, where you can find out more about it and where he spoke a little bit about what happened there. Now, he said that well, he didn't really have a good start. He finished second in the Rapid Championship, and then he had a bad start in day one. It wasn't really all that bad. It was bad for his standards, as he wasn't the world champion yet, but he was the #1 rated player in the world. And then he also didn't really like his start on day 2 of the World Blitz Championship. And then he says he went to his room, he opened the minibar, and he opened a bottle of Russian or Kazakh vodka, and he drank as much as he could in 15 minutes. Now, I know that's not an exact measure of of anything, as much as you can drink in 15 minutes, so it could be anything from very little to an entire bottle, I guess, but it is very interesting, as you'll see in the article. If you click on it, Carlsen mentions that when he returned to the playing hall, people were watching him, staring at him, and wondering why he was so joyful, why he wasn't worried like he was before, as everyone was really worried. It was the last day of the World Blitz Championship and the entire event, and of course everyone was very nervous, except Magnus. And then even though we don't know how much he drank, he started playing and he started winning. Not only winning, he won 8 games in a row. And this is one of the games I'm going to show you that he played. I'm not saying he won this one. I'm just saying at some point he won 8 games in a row. And it's very interesting that he started this game with, first I'm going to show you, as we do have one photo from this event. There you have it. I don't know if it's from this exact game, but he does have the white pieces, and he does look like he just came back from his hotel room. So let's just imagine Radjabov now joins him at the table, and Magnus opens the game with none other than A4. The so-called Preston Ware opening, named by the the American master, or maybe not even master, American chess player Preston Ware, who played it, who was known for playing uncommon openings, and it is a weird move to play, but it's a running joke. I don't know if it's not a running joke, but at some point, I think in 2010, Magnus Carlsen mentioned Radjabov that chess is becoming a little bit boring, and that you could probably play A4 against anyone amongst the top players and still win the game. And this is probably why he played it, although it could be just trying something new, as he wasn't really playing up to the level that he can play in the World Blitz Championship and in the entire event. So here we have A4, and Radjabov replies with E5. We have E4 by Magnus, and now we have a series of moves that basically transposes into the 4 knights game, with white having A4 played on the board. So knight to F6, we have knight to C3, knight to C6, and now knight to F3. So we have the 4 knights with A4 being played, and this position has never been reached in top level play, so we're gonna call it that it is, as of move 4, we have a completely new game. So here Radjabov continues with bishop to b4, and now comes bishop to b5. So here, yes, you are threatening to kind of weaken the e4 pawn, but it's never really a threat, as you know from similar openings. So here we have castles by Radjabov and castles by Magnus. Here you could try to go for captures and win the e5 pawn, but as it doesn't work for black, it doesn't work for white either. For example, b captures, knight captures on e5, your king is still in the center of the board, and you're going to have a lot of problems here. For example, queen e7 attacks the knight, and now it doesn't really matter. Knight goes back, and now just captures on c3, d captures, and queen captures on e4 check, and white's position doesn't really improve. If anything, it deteriorates. For example, captures, and either king captures on e2, or you don't really have any other move to play, and then bishop a6 check, and black will be very happy with his position. So here, after castles, we have castles by white, and now comes d6, strengthening the e5 pawn, and white does the same. We have d3. We have bishop to g4, developing the bishop, pinning the knight, and now knight to e2, saying to Radjabov, okay, you can open up my king side, but if you do this, it's a blitz game. Do you want to face king h1, rook g1? Maybe I can start an attack against your king. Maybe bishop to h6 is coming. Who knows? It's going to be pretty wild, and it's blitz, you know. Anything can happen. So Radjabov instead goes for a6. He doesn't want all that crazy of a game. And Magnus trades here on c6. We have captures, and now knight to g3. Now the knight is nicely protected by the queen, and h3 is coming. We have knight to h5 by Radjabov, and now h3, challenging the bishop here. And here Radjabov trades. We have captures on g3, f captures on g3, and now he goes back. And now, what Radjabov did here is that he saved his bishop pair, and now he has a bishop pair against a bishop and a knight. So if he can use this to his advantage, should be great for black. However, Magnus doesn't want to meet f5, and he plays g4. The g pawns are doubled, so it does make sense to push it, and also you now have complete control of the f5 square. At some point, maybe you can bring the queen to this diagonal. For the moment, you can't, as the bishop guards e1, but at some point, maybe knight can come to h4, and then you will have a very nice outpost on f5. Or maybe black will have to weaken the king side even further by playing g6. So here, bishop c5 check by Radjabov, king to h1, and queen to e7, developing the queen, connecting rooks, and making preparations to execute d5, as the e5 pawn is now nicely protected. So queen e1, the bishop no longer guards not that square, but the e1 square, and now ideas like knight h4 to f5 are possible. We have f6, now saying that, okay, we're gonna strengthen the center even further. d5 is coming, and here knight to h4. Magnus just continues as planned, and Radjabov doesn't like the idea of knight to f5, so he prevents it further with g6. Now the f5 square is guarded, and Magnus continues with bishop to h6. As Josh Waitzkin would say, if you've ever seen any of his videos on Chess Master, you have to use the square left behind. So bishop to h6, now as g6 was played, attacking the rook on f8, and here we have rook to f7. And now Magnus continues with rook to b1, preparing to further expand on the king side, maybe with b4 and so on. So here we have bishop to b6, probably a waiting move. He doesn't want to meet b4 with tempo, so he goes bishop to b6, although d5 was a possibility here, as he did spend a lot of time preparing it. So bishop back to b6, and now Magnus just plays the calm b3 move, giving Radjabov the move. And here he starts again with, not starts again, but here he goes d5. Magnus could have gone for a different idea, maybe a5, and then if he goes back, bishop c5, b4, and then go back, but Magnus doesn't want to rush anything. He says, okay, you can keep your bishop there. Instead, I'm just going to play b3, and now Radjabov strikes in the center with d5. We have knight back to f3. And now comes rook to e8, bringing the rook into the game. At some point, g5 might be played, keeping that bishop stuck on h6, but Magnus isn't worried. First, Radjabov brings the rook over to e8, and now queen to g3. The knight has moved. Now you have options of playing h4, h5, bust open the king side, and start an attack against the black king. So here we have bishop to c5. Again, seems to be another waiting move by Radjabov, and a rook b to e1. And here d captures on e4. Again, g5 was an option here, as it does kind of trap this bishop over here on h6, but Radjabov waits with that move. So first he captures on e4 once, d captures, and now bishop back to d6. Now probably making preparation to at some point either execute f5 or to trap the bishop in with the g5. So here Magnus not worried, goes a rook to e2, and now we have c5 by Radjabov. We have knight to d2. He doesn't want to allow c4 because Radjabov has doubled c-pawns. If c4 is played, then you can get rid of one of your doubled pawns, and well, Magnus just prevents this, plays knight to d2, prepares knight to c4, which will put pressure on the bishop here, but also you might have some ideas of remaneuvering the knight, let's say, over to d5. So here bishop to e6 again prepares c4, and here queen to d3. Magnus again guards the c4 square, and now here Magnus also attacks the a6 pawn, but Radjabov says we're gonna allow you to capture on a6. I'm gonna try and trap the bishop now, even though you could defend it with a move like bishop to c8, and then the game continues. Knight c4, probably something like this. But it's a blitz game, you know, anything can happen, so we're not going to dwell on what could have happened so much. So here g5, trapping the bishop, not allowing it to escape. Some ideas like king over here, rook will come here, rook to g6, maybe you can capture the bishop with rook captures on h6. Magnus captures on a6, and now king to h8. And now the question is, how strong is this passed pawn, and can Radjabov trap? Well, the bishop is trapped, but can you capture it, or is it really trapped? So here we have knight to c4. Magnus not even worried about bishop just yet. So first, knight to c4. Radjabov gladly trades. We have bishop captures, queen captures, and now rook to g8. The idea is rook to g6 followed by rook captures on h6. And here, here there is only one good move for Magnus, and only one move that wins the game. So even feel free to pause the video here and try to find this winning idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this only move that wins the game. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's h4. And it's kind of poetic that the only move that wins the game is the opposite of a4, how the game started. But you know, that's only if you enjoy such things. The problem is if you play anything else, let's say you play a5, rook g6 just wins the bishop. So you have to play h4. h4 is forced. So here h4. And of course Radjabov captures it. But now, or if you go for the bishop, we also could show that, for example, if you go for the bishop, Magnus can just trade, and now you don't really have a good move, because there is no move to play. You cannot recapture, your position is just terrible, and you literally don't have a move here. Like if you capture here, then the rook on f7 is hanging, rook captures, and you will lose the bishop with check, but it doesn't matter. For example, king g1, and now the queen is under attack. Let's say you go queen e6, offer a queen trade, just rook e to f2. White is very happy trading queens. He has a rook for a bishop, and of course the beautiful passed a pawn. So it's a very easy victory. So here, instead, after this h4 idea, we have g captures on h4, like we said, and now g5 by Magnus. Again, you can never capture, as the rook on f7 would hang, and you don't have all that much to play. So rook to g6 has been played, but here Magnus just played rook e to f2, and it was in this position on move 32 that Teimour Radjabov resigned the game, as there was nothing more to be done here. So it's really a remarkable position. Black really has no moves. Like you could play a move like c6 or something like that, but it would be pointless. We could also show what happens if you insist on this. For example, f captures on g5, just rook captures on f7, so it doesn't really work. And if you try something like queen to d7, let's say you just try wasting a move, then white easily wins with just captures on f6, and there's too much pressure on all of black's pieces. For example, if you trade, let's say you capture rook captures on f6, rook captures on f6, rook captures and g captures, there's no defense against rook to g7. All of these squares are covered, the queen is covering this diagonal, and there is no move. Whatever you play, any move you play, just rook g7 check, and that's it. Black has to give up the queen, and that's it. Just a queen against the bishop, and also there's this passed pawn. So very interesting, but after this rook e to f2, of course Radjabov resigned the game, and a brilliant victory for Magnus Carlsen. So like I said, do check out the article in the description below. It features all of the games that Magnus won after returning from his hotel room, and it's just I mean, it's just a very crazy story. First I thought it was a joke, maybe just you know, I don't know, there's no reason for Chess24 to post a joke like that, since it's not, you know, April's Fool's Day or anything like that. And then I read about it, and then it really sounded very true. So here it is, and you know, don't try this at home, or you know, don't drink and go to chess tournaments unless you're like Magnus Carlsen, Elizabeth Harman, or you know, a certain magician. It will not work. You're just gonna play terrible chess and get wasted. but you know, from time to time, let's say once every 50 years, such a thing occurs, and you know, good results happen. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Once again, do check out the article in the description below if you want to know more about the story. I would like to thank Bjorn Brenna, Scott Gunnaris, Ralph Wade, Luke Schmidt, and Anish Shah for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphe saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world, or whatever else happens in the chess world 8 years ago, such as is the case here. So yeah, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.